Here on Fancred, and we are ready to talk to you after another night of Survivor. Stephen, how are you doing?
I'm great. We just had a really good podcast with talking about this episode where, it started off as a pretty straightforward episode, but actually it ended up kind of getting a little bit wild towards the end. I'm really excited about this. When we've done this in the past, it's been really fun and a little bit terrifying because, no control over what people say. So,
what are you worried about? People are going to come on and drag you?
No, it's just more like, like someone says something
we'll be fine. All right, here's what you're gonna do: get on the fan line. Okay, there is a black button that is on the app that's at the top of the screen that you can, and I believe it's on the top right part of your screen, where you can go ahead and then hit that button, and then you will be talking with our producer, and then momentarily after that, you'll be talking with the Survivor Know-It-Alls live on a Wednesday Survivor night. Who would have imagined such a thing was possible even a few short years ago, Stephen?
I know, it's really crazy. I mean, when you started this thing, it was like, we were like hand cranking our cameras, and it was really a different thing, different world.
Okay, all right. So just to reset a little bit of where we're at tonight. Of course, Ron Clark voted out of the game. Rick Devens played his idol, but it was a new group of four which came together with the plot to take out Ron Clark. So we want to hear from you where you think this whole thing is going. 2 weeks from tonight is the finale. Catherine from New York is on the fan line, and we are ready to go. And let's bring Catherine in to talk with the Survivor Know-It-Alls here live on a Survivor Wednesday.
Catherine, hello.
Hello.
Catherine, how are you?
I'm good. How are you guys?
We're doing great, Catherine. We want to hear what you're thinking about all this.
Yes, I have to admit, I only caught the very tail end of Know-It-Alls because I was watching Amazing Race after the episode.
No spoilers.
No spoilers.
So, I won't, but hopefully I don't know if this question was already asked in the Twitter or anything, but what are your thoughts on this raucous jury? I'm sure it's partially because it's such a large jury, but do you think it's going to continue in the future like this? And do you like that they're being so expressive and that we can just hear them squealing from the jury?
Mm-hmm.
I had two thoughts about this thing. And first, if they're actually rooting for Devens, then them transparently rooting for Devens is the worst thing they could do, right? Like when you see the jury actively rooting for someone, you're like, oh, we should get that person out, extra. And then the other thing I was thinking was, and I'm curious to hear what you guys think, was that I didn't like it when they kind of were cheering when Ron was voted out, because it's that's a tough moment for him. And I don't know him. Maybe he was a total jerk out there. Maybe they all had some personal bone to pick with him, but it did seem, and Reem said that a lot of people liked him, right? Final words from Reem.
Yeah.
But I felt like that just maybe made a hard moment even harder.
So I don't care for it, but let me just play devil's advocate. What's the problem? Yeah. What's the problem with it? Are we just being set in our ways? If the jury wants to go nuts and be super expressive when people are getting, well, why does the jury need to be solemn?
Because it's you're out of the game. Don't make it about you.
Wow, they can't help to make it about them. I mean, is it good for the show? Because I've talked about this on the podcast where
it is good for the show.
The jury is a little bit of sort of the Greek chorus that is the viewer. And that I do think that the jokes play bigger when the jury, we get reaction shots of the live studio audience laughing. It's a laugh track. When the big move happens, all the shocked faces of the jury, it's oh wow, this is even more shocking because look at all these people that are shocking. So I do think that that the bigger moments play bigger because of the overreactionary jury.
Oh, I love the reactionary jury. I love it. I love the big crazy moments. Clearly people are rehearsing their shocked gifts. Or, I'm sorry, everyone is ready to be gift. But I did. The only thing I didn't like was what seemed to be somewhat derisive laughter. And maybe I misjudged it because I didn't really totally catch either who it was or what the tone was. Maybe it was just joy at this crazy moment. But it's hard. It's hard to go, and you don't like the feeling of twisting the knife. What's your thought?
I don't super love it, but I do agree that it's kind of a good base. Like, I am feeling the same emotions as the jury, but sometimes it is a bit distracting because then we miss the reactions of all the people who are still left in the game.
Mm-hmm.
And also, I just wonder how Jeff is taking it, because we've heard in the past how he is like kind of harsh sometimes with contestants that we don't see and tries to rein him in. So I'm wondering, when this cuts, how he's dealing with
my sense is if he didn't like it or if he didn't want it to be that way, it would not be that way.
It wouldn't.
Yeah. And when in Cambodia, when we were on the jury, like when they wanted us to not react, they were explicit. Like there was one time in particular, I think it was like the final 4 or something. Like they were like, don't give any guidance here. And so we were like stone faced.
Okay. All right. Catherine, thank you for the call. Okay. There you go. Catherine from New York. And I think we got somebody coming in right on her heels. And we have David in New York. That's really where our base of support is, Stephen.
Yeah, hometown.
We're New York State. Yes, David, where are you calling from?
I'm calling from the city right now, but born and raised in Plainview, so not too far from.
Okay, yes, my old stomping grounds. Okay, David, what's going on?
Yeah, so I just have a question about Gavin. If you're in Gavin's situation there, did he have like any other path besides, I'll take these 2 votes and I'll do exactly what they say and I'm going to put them on Rob? Was there another path?
Stephen, what do you think? Could Gavin have made another? I think that he probably alienates all the other people in the game if he ends up like sort of like I guess he could have like forced some sort of a tie where, I guess he could have like grabbed the hold of Rick Devens and said, hey, Devens, I've got 2 votes tonight. They're going to vote for you. If you have an idol, play it. And then our 3 votes will carry the day. But I think then he's sort of left without anybody that wants to work with him.
Yeah. And, I think, if you look at who's in the game now, it's the only people left who have like any real history of voting together are Gavin and Victoria. Mm-hmm. Other than the 2 of them, it's almost like totally like just a total like board of free operators.
Well, I guess
so. I actually think Gavin's not in a terrible position.
Yeah, I think that what he could have done is he could have taken Aurora's extra votes and then voted also for Aurora, and then sent Aurora out of the game instead of Ron Clark.
But Gavin, like, why not get rid of Ron if you're Gavin? Yes, like he gave him that emotional moment and et cetera, et cetera. But I don't know. I think that this is probably the move for him. Like just to like join up with the people who were always kind of his. Wow. His allies.
I feel like he's at the bottom of that though.
You got a funny way of paying me back for that family visit, Gavin, young man. I'm not happy with you.
It's like Boston Ron. You're like halfway there.
How dare you?
If he flips to Devens and Ron, he has 2 massive shields in front of him, as opposed to being on the bottom of Victoria, Lauren, and Aurora, which he clearly was because he was the last person they informed of what was happening.
Yeah,
right. That's not a bad point. That is not a bad point. I guess like if you're Gavin at that stage, like why would you keep people around? I guess it's the final 8. Like there's still a lot of game left. Yeah, I guess that's an interesting idea.
I think if I'm Gavin, I think I'm very comfortable with rolling into the final 4 with Aurora and Lauren and Victoria, because I think that he's got as good of a shot as any of them to win immunities. He probably feels better about the fire making with that group. So even though in a traditional season, he's probably the odd person out at 4. I think with the fire making chance, I think that's as good of a chance as anything to get into the final 3.
Aurora of the people left in the game is the best. Is probably the best immunity.
Yeah, I think she's 1-2. Right? I think Gavin's 1-2. So it would be 1-2 and Rick is 1-2. It would be toe to toe.
Yeah.
Yes.
Tip top toes.
And then that immunity challenge tonight was the famous one where Rupert was a coach, and then Rupert was screaming, "My toe!"
I thought he broke his toe.
He broke his toe earlier, but it was very hard on Rupert to compete.
That was like coaches like
yes,
Dragon
Tokachins.
Yeah.
Okay, David, thank you so much. All right, there you go. Yeah, very iconic challenges, throwbacks tonight. Stephanie in St. Louis is on the fan line. Let's go ahead and talk to Stephanie in St. Louis here on Fancred, where Stephanie from St. Louis is able to call in and talk to us. Stephanie, how are you?
Hey, how are you guys?
We're doing great.
Good.
So my question is about how the jury's perception of tonight's tribal council affects the end game, because I think we saw as viewers a really good edit of kind of the doing a really scheming, plotting, and strategizing. But at the final score at the tribal council, I think it was a lot of Rick getting revenge on to the jury.
Right.
And I wanted your perspective.
Okay.
That's interesting. So you were breaking up a little bit, but like let me rephrase. So you're basically saying like in what could have been or really was a big move from Gavin and Victoria and Lauren and Aurora, like it all the credit goes to Rick. Is that what you're saying?
To the jury looks like.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
I think that's a great
That's
point.
what I was saying on the know-it-alls tonight, that I felt like that is, like, wow, to the jury, and I think to probably a lot of the viewers, like, wow, Rick Devens really schooled Ron, and he wasn't even on the right, voting for the right person.
Yeah, he didn't even have. That's right. He was voting for the wrong person. Ron actually schooled him, right? Like Ron got him to vote for the wrong person.
Yeah.
And short of having like a magic token in his pocket, he would have gone home. I think that's a really great point. It's interesting because it really shows how, I mean, we haven't seen the results of this yet, but like how crucial it is to think of how you're presenting yourself to the jury.
Yeah.
Right,
And go ahead, Steph.
Too, because you're playing low radar game, but at the same time, when it comes to final tribal council, are they going to?
Yeah. I mean, Jeff was talking a little bit about that when War Dog for the War Dog vote, where War Dog was like, yeah, me and Ron were the ones to do that, and Jeff kind of called him out. He's like, that's great to get credit, but it's also really terrible for your game. And lo and behold, 1-2, those are the guys who left.
Yeah. All right, Stephanie, thank you so much for the call. Okay. And I really do feel like that as we're pointing out, the Ron thing or the Rick thing is gonna, I think, be way more impactful with the jury, even though he was on the wrong side of the vote, as Aaron in Virginia is going to join us on the fan line. Do you agree that the jury, that it's very hard for the jury to also be able to figure out what happened in terms of who voted for who, the extra vote that came into play? Like the jury has no idea about any of that. All they see is Rick Devens and playing his idol.
Right. Totally. And it's like exciting for them, and like the big speech, and like, they go back to Juryville and they talk about that.
Here is Aaron in Virginia. Aaron, how are you?
Good. How are you guys?
We're doing great. Happy to have you here, Aaron. What's going on?
First of all, I want to hope Steven's shoulder recovery is going well so
far. Oh, thank you.
But
that's nice.
My question was, do you think Lauren increased her chances of tonight, because it kind of seemed like she was the one who orchestrated the vote split on Ron?
So it looked like, based in the episode, Victoria is the first person to talk about how Ron didn't take them on the reward, and this was telling, and maybe they should go after Ron. It did seem like that Lauren was the conduit, at least to Gavin, and I'm not sure, maybe to Aurora. Stephen, did you have a clearer read on that?
Yeah, I mean, again, like we were sort of talking a little bit about this before, how it's like such a consensus thing. It's like, Victoria says one thing, Lauren says another thing, then Gavin has an idea, Aurora suggests her extra vote. So it really did seem like it was that whole foursome kind of collaborating.
Mm-hmm. Aaron, did you have a strong feeling about it? Do you feel like that Lauren has really improved her position?
Yeah, I mean, I think she's kind of just integrated really well with the comma group, especially kind of since she's kind of faded back a little bit with how everyone else on Lesu was just a huge target. And she also
last Lesu standing. We didn't really talk about that. She's the last Lesu.
I mean, Rick Devens is there.
Rick's still there.
Oh yeah,
but she's distanced herself from him.
Yeah.
He doesn't count.
She's sitting on, and she's obviously good in challenges. So I think she definitely could be in it for the long haul.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't see like, and who's it's like who are the targets
no
now,
one's
right?
mentioning
Like
her
who's
name even.
if it's not like it's like Rick, it's Aurora, and I don't even know who the other person would be. Like who's like let's say it's not Rick or Aurora, it's got to be Rick or Aurora.
Well, I
week.
think
Like,
it could
who
be
else
Julie
it be?
also.
I just don't see it. Why would you vote out Julie? I guess because like she's so deviant.
I mean,
maybe
the four of them have worked together for a couple of votes. Those four have been on the same page, and that Julie was the person who was working with Ron. So I think that there's I don't know if it's likely, but I think there's a chance.
I'll allow it.
All right. Thank you so much, Aaron.
Yeah, thank you guys.
Okay. All right. Take care. All right. Bye. All right. Let's we got a question from the comments here. Mary in the comments says that Mike White played the game that Ron Clark should have played. What do you think about that, Stephen?
What does that mean?
I don't know. Are you a fan of Ron Clark? Aaron, what do you think of that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's true that so basically, I mean, I guess Ron was sort of in a similar position to Mike White. He was in that dominant alliance. He was, probably the strategic driver of the big alliance. And Mike White was very Goliath strong on his season, and and we certainly saw that Ron was Kama strong. That was his whole thing. But it was hard because that whole group fell apart, and I think that's always the challenge. And I actually think, right. So Mike White was kind of like saved almost by his, that little trio of him, Angelina and Nick, right. Who the final three, and they were from, whatever their tribe's name was. But it's, I don't know. I mean, it's slightly different because Mike, because of the tribe swap, the way that the tribe swaps worked out last season versus the tribe swaps this season, there were a lot more intertribal dynamics happening last season, whereas this season, Manu just became Lesu.
Okay. All right. We have Matthew in Boston who wants to join us on the fan line. Let's go ahead and patch him in. William in the comments says, it was good to see Lauren working with Victoria.
Yeah, it was fun. It was great.
Yeah. So that's coming together. A new Witches Coven, perhaps.
And last week, Lauren with Julie, where like Julie's saying Lauren's saying I trust you more than I trust anybody. Julie was saying the same thing back. Like you're saying, Lauren did a really great job of integrating herself really well into that group.
The new Kelly Wentworth. Okay.
New Kelly Wentworth.
Matthew in Boston is here. Matthew, how are you?
Hey guys, how are you?
Doing great. What's going on, Matthew?
So obviously, if the jury were to vote today, Devins would be the first choice. But assuming that people smarten up and get him out, who's in a position to fill that power vacuum?
Yeah, that's the question. I mean, it could be this sort of I don't know. What do you think, Rob?
I want to make sure I understand the question. So if Devins was gone, who would be looked at as the new biggest threat?
The most in terms of winning the game?
I don't know. I mean, who's the most connected in that group? It's just like I need a good F word for the underedited four. I don't know who is the person who is like the person that's like the key person who's connected with everybody.
I mean,
Gavin and Victoria have worked together the longest, but it looks like
maybe it's Lauren. I mean, honestly, Lauren's not the most connected, but she's maybe she would be considered the most threatening as basically the last Lesu standing. Which gives her a lot of differentiation. It's a great story with I came back from this terrible tribe and here I am at the end. I don't know. It's a tough one. It really could be her.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Aurora's got a good case, Aurora's been the target almost every week. Aurora's gotten votes on her. So I feel like Aurora's got a really strong case to make in front of a jury as well.
What do you think, Matt?
I was actually thinking Gavin or Victoria could be someone who can make some noise. I feel like they have a lot of strategic prowess, but it hasn't necessarily been shown that much. And then the other thing is someone else is going to come back from the edge of extinction. And while I think it's unlikely the jury would give them the money, that's a factor.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I think it's likely the jury would give them the money if they make it.
I mean, they've said you're one of us.
Yeah, exactly. It's like someone who's someone who's come from their tribe and who was presumably whatever wounds right, were inflicted are probably healed, so I guess it obviously depends like how quickly that person bounces, right? Like if it's someone like who's there for a day and then they're like, oh, see ya, and like then that person like stole their shot basically, maybe they'd be annoyed at that. But I think if it's like a long standing edger, there's there's a good chance.
Matthew, thank you so much for the call. We're going to talk to Mike from Savannah is on the line here as the Survivor Know-It-Alls are live here on a Wednesday night talking to people on the fan line here on Fancred. Mike from Savannah, how are you, Mike?
Good. How are you guys?
We're doing great.
Good.
Mike, what's going on?
Not much. I was just wondering, in terms of the jury and Edge of Extinction, do you think like Reem or Chris, even maybe Aubrey, have a chance of getting votes at the end? Because maybe they would just get brought to the end because they haven't really played the game that much this season. So do you think they even have a chance? Like, would you guys give them a vote knowing that they haven't really played much of the game? As much as I love Reem so much. And I love your impression, by the way.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Don't encourage him.
Lauren in the comments even says, what do we need to do to get a weekly puppet reenactment of the episode? I think we'd lose Stephen. Stephen so you'd get a puppet reenactment, we'd lose the know-it-all.
Might be an okay. That's another podcast opportunity.
Yeah,
for you.
well,
It's
puppet show doesn't play as well on a podcast. But yeah, Stephen, do you think that the Edge of Extinction person could get dragged to the end? Would people look at it that way?
No.
Yeah, I think in sort of like a conventional wisdom world, I think that they would. But the way that this jury is seems to really love the idea of one of their own winning, then I think that would be a foolish move.
I mean, I just think of like, how close you get to people at Ponderosa and how much you kind of like share in each other's pain and how you're like much more emotionally open and vulnerable with each other. And it feels like the guard is down once you're voted out. And I just think like seeing that person get back, you'd be rooting for that person like 1,000%, to win out.
Okay? True. I mean, I just feel like someone like Reem, I mean, she's not the friendliest at, the Edge of Extinction. But her getting to the end, like just winning immunities, if she got to the end, like something like that, do you think she has a chance of winning the whole thing?
My God, if the first boot got to the final three, like that's a pretty compelling argument. I mean, a lot depends on who she's there with.
Yeah.
Dude, you'd be so lucky if I won this season, Fishbach.
I would be very lucky.
Okay. All right. Mike, thank you for the call. Okay. All right, I'm going easy. That I know you are, recovering, and I'm trying not to upset you.
Oh, why?
I don't want to overdo it with the puppets, but maybe next week I'll get like.
I love that.
I'll get like the
Night
King and Jon Snow for when we talk about Game of Thrones. So that
the Night King's dead.
Easy.
Come on, if you haven't been spoiled on that, like God bless. Like there's just not possible.
Yeah, the Night Dog. Okay. Paul in Jersey is on the fan line. Let's talk to Paul in Jersey. Okay. Yes.
Dude, did you just totally spoil Game of Thrones for me, dude? Dude, this is ridiculous. I didn't get to see that next episode.
Dude, when Game of Thrones is on, I'm like, don't call me, don't talk to me.
My nightmare.
What have you done, Rob?
Yes. Paul, how are you?
Good. I just wanted to say your Instagram was hilarious tonight.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. Put a lot of time into figuring out what we're gonna do today.
What did you do? What was the Instagram?
I took over the CBS Instagram. I sent in a ton of videos. I don't know which ones they used.
Yeah.
They had on the roof.
Oh yeah.
War in the bag.
Yeah.
Yeah. Those were the two best, and then of course the boys. You had the boys in that too.
Yeah. Okay.
They were good.
All right, Paul. Do you have a question for us?
No.
Okay. Okay. Just doing bits. Okay. All right. Well, thank you, Paul. Always good to catch up. Dan in the comments says Rick Devens is Ben from Survivor Triple H. Any of the women or Gavin Chrissy? Steven, are any of? Do you see a Chrissy? Your friend Chrissy Hoffbeck?
I mean, the thing is, like, Chrissy was both an all-time immunity tire, right? She tied the record for the most immunity wins for a woman, and she was one of the probably dominant strategic forces on that season. And so I don't see anyone having that both combination of physical prowess and strategic dominance that Chrissy did. But I mean, it's not too late, right? It's just the final 8. There's still time for either Aurora or Gavin to step up.
We're now down to the final 6.
Final six. Well, if Gavin won 3 immunities, I guess that's not possible. But Aurora just needs to win 2.
Okay.
And then she would tie that number.
Bill in the comments says that Steven stuck between 2 reams was worth downloading the app.
Yeah, it'll be a dream of mine for many nights to come.
I mean, Gavin could win. He could win immunity at 6, immunity at 5, immunity at 6 again.
I guess that's right. The double 6 is where I lost count. It's hard to count when the numbers go up.
Yes. So there you go. All right. Do we have anybody else on the fan line ready to go as we talk to 1 or 2 more people here? All right. So Dan in the comments says, forget about the wand off. Give me the ream off. Every week, people could come in. Do you think that she will appreciate all this attention, or do you think that she's going to be sour about her Survivor experience?
I mean, it's possible that it's like I would imagine she gets a kick out of it. It's certainly possible that she has to sort of laugh with it because it's frustrating for her. But I would imagine to have been the first boot and to be such an iconic character on the season is somewhat.
I have to think that she must have been at the lowest of lows to be the first boot on the season, but then to have all the adulation poured on her by the Survivor community during this run, where she's. I have to think that she's enjoying this.
I hope so. I really do. I'm sure. I hope so. But a lot of it, I mean, it's and hopefully we see her again. Do you think there's a chance there's another?
I ranked this on the podcast this past week. I think that Reem is the second most likely of the first time players to return to the show.
Rick is the first, obviously.
Yeah.
And you think Reem over Ron? Interesting.
I think Reem over Ron. I think that Reem returning to the show, I think there's more of a built-in story there than there is with Ron returning to the show.
Yeah. And Reem is a no-brainer for a second chance ballot. Would Reem get cast off a second chance ballot?
A fan vote? Yes, she would, because I would.
Do you think so?
I would be out hitting the pavement day in and day out with vote for Reem.
Well, that's interesting. I mean, because Shane Powers, right? He was a fan favorite, but it's the broad mass of the Survivor fandom was not behind Shane Powers.
I wonder. Let's see. Okay.
Hopefully, we have the opportunity. Who's number 3?
Ron. I think Ron at 3.
Who's 4 though?
I think that the Mayo Jar and I were debating this. I think War Dog is 4, and then we were.
I'm sorry, War Dog. Obviously, War Dog. I actually think War Dog is probably 2.
Well, Reem, I just think is so compelling as a story. Yeah. And then we were debating between I thought Victoria more than Big Wendy. He thought Big Wendy had more story.
I think Victoria over Big Wendy. I think a strategic, funny character like her versus and Wendy was awesome, but she just she was just chaos.
Yeah, I think that Victoria could play bigger on her second time out, but she already has the wit and can give you the good confessional. You can't teach how to be witty in good confessional. You can sort of be louder out there, but it's hard to take somebody who doesn't have it and then get them doing stuff that's going to be good TV. Okay, all right.
Yeah.
Let's do these last couple of comments then before we start to wrap up. Jen in the comments is Reem going to have a stump speech? Oh, come on, that hasn't even been through enough, dude. If you don't vote for me, you're lame. Get out of here. I'll drop kick you. Reem, people are tantalized with the idea of Reem for a second chance.
Yeah, I think that'd be amazing. It would be a really great story. Yeah. And then she wins.
Norman in the chat wants to know, will season 40 be all returning players? Actually, I'm hearing my sources are telling me it's going to be all Amazing Racers on season 40. It's going to be the Amazing Race Showdown. So check that out. It's going to be Tyler and Corey, a bunch of the Colin and Christy, Drew and Kevin from the first Amazing Race.
Can people who were on Survivor and then on Amazing Race go on this?
I think that that has not been decided yet. So all
like Brett and
no,
Chris?
no, they're not. It's pure Amazing Racers. Uchenna and Joyce, I think, are also going to be in the mix.
Oh, that's fun.
So a lot of
who I like is Ian and Terry.
Ian Terry was on Big Brother.
No, not Ian Terry. Like Ian and Terry Pollock. Isn't that their name?
I don't know. Okay.
I think they were an Amazing Race. I see them at I used to see them at events.
All right. Stephen, what fun we had tonight here.
Yeah, Ian and Terry Pollock.
Okay, if you say so.
Yeah.
If you say so.
Yeah. They're really nice.
Yeah. What fun we had going through everything. Yes. Always great to talk to everybody, all of the fans, and be here live on Fancred. Hope you guys join us again next time, and we'll see what's going on at the Survivor Final 5. Take care, everybody. Have a good one. Bye.
Bye.